Hi, this video is going to go through Fire Plans Examiner, how to pass the ICC test. Its label is F3 as far as its code. I created an online series of questions, quizzes, that kind of thing, that should exactly match what the F3 test is going to be like. Now, I did that based upon the 2015 ICC code set. I wrote this several years ago, about 7 years ago. I'm just putting it online now and sharing it with you now. My observation, having taken about 18 of these ICC tests over the years, for the Master Code Professional certification, is that there's a lot of overlap. The questions don't change a lot between the tests. So I really think, even though the information may be 7 years old, that I'm going to give you, the prep course, it should still be pretty good. So let's run through what Fire Plans Examiner requires. For references, if you look, here's NFPA 13, NFPA 72. The questions I created were based upon the 2013 versions of those standards. There's questions from the IFC and the questions from the IBC as well. Those two codes are the 2015 ICC publications. Let me show you what the test looks like at iccsafe.org in terms of the parameters that define it. If you look at iccsafe.org, do a search for Fire Plans Examiner. There are several tests that will come up, but you're after Fire Plans Examiner F3. So select that one. It will give you the parameters for this test. You have 3.5 hours to complete it. It's a total of 60 questions. So it's not like as intense as other ones, commercial electrical inspector, commercial building inspector. They're both 3.5 hour tests, but they're 80 questions. But it does expect you to have some specialized knowledge. And as pointed out before, IFC, IBC, NFPA 13, NFPA 72 are the references. They don't offer the 2015 version anymore, just the 2021 and 2024. If you go over to catchsunlight.com, QFCE, or QFP, excuse me, you'll come to this page here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's 4 new quizzes that are added here. And they're based on the book. So for instance, the quiz 1 for F3 is the 2015 IBC. Quiz 2 is the 2013 NFPA 72. Quiz 3 is the 2013 NFPA 13. And Quiz 4 is based on the 2015 IFC. Majority of those questions are found in the IFC. The IFC had, I created 181 practice questions here. If you go back to the other standards we talked about, if we look, for instance, at the IBC, 2015 IBC, Quiz 1, there's just a fraction of that. 28 questions come from the IBC. And let's see, down here, NFPA 13 is only 14 questions. So what I'm getting at is what you need to know is the IFC, the most part of it. I already went through the references, the highlighted sections when I did the Fire Inspector 1 and Fire Inspector 2 online test series. So just look that up on my YouTube channel. I'm not going to show you the highlights from that. It'd be redundant. I'm also not going to show you the highlights I have in the IBC, even though there was only 28 questions from it on these quizzes. In other words, just a small subset of the overall number of questions come from the IBC. Those are from references. And what I mean by highlights, take a look at the highlights. The highlights you see there are the highlights I put into place for given exams. And I took the 2015 IBC, I used this on the Building Plans Examiner and the Fire Plans Examiner. So that's the highlights I've already showed you in the Building Plans Examiner discussion. So go to that YouTube video for the ICC Building Plans Examiner, the B3 exam. Have an online test for that. I showed you the highlights for it. And yeah, I'm not going to go back and go through that again. Just look at the references. Now, what I want to show you, what I mean by look at the references. Take a look at these exams I created here. So let's go to the IBC quiz. That was the first one. When I say references, 2015, table 601. So IBC 303.3, 508.2.4. Those are the references you would look up in this manual. So let's just look at number 3. How high shall vehicle barriers be within a parking garage that serves a mall? Well, right there, you know what section to go to. Chapter 4 of the IBC covers malls. But I give you the reference, 406. Let's jump into 406. Let's be very specific, make it easier. So chapter 4 covers, specialized stuff. So if I go over here to 406, and the sub number is 40643. So right here, I have my middle finger on it. That's 406.4.3. And it says vehicle barriers not less than 2 feet 9 inches. Bam, there's your answer. And as you can see, I have it highlighted and I have the answer underlined. And if I've already went through all the references that I have in the IBC when I did that B3 video series, so I'm not going to do that again as stated before. But you have the references. Now, you're going to be taking this test in 2021 or 2024 IBC. You're not going to be doing, 2018 or 2015. So you're going to have to map them over. And unfortunately, some of these numbers have changed. That makes it a little challenging, but it's going to be in the general vicinity as these numbers. So you only have 28 of them to do in the IBC. Should be okay. Now, what I'm going to do for you, I will go through NFPA 72 and NFPA 13. Okay, I'm going to show you my highlights there. And the reason I'm going to do that, this is why I do that. Because when you're studying for the FPE exam, and if you use this online utility I created, it's a lot easier for you if you go through already and have the highlights done. So then when you come to the question and you're looking up the reference, one of these references, okay? When you're looking at that reference, and let's be a little bit more accurate. I don't want to confuse anybody. Let's go here to the next quiz, 72. So one of these references here. So this is the 2013 NFPA 72, chapter 10.12.3 and .2 and .3. That's what the slash represents. So you'd end up going into section 10.12.2, and it's highlighted. And that makes it a lot easier. If it's already highlighted, you don't have to search for it. So if you go through this video, just watch it, put out your NFPA 13 and NFPA 72, highlight what I have highlighted. May not be the correct number in the 2024, or let's see, 2019, 2022 edition, let's say. Let's say you're doing the 2022 edition of the NFPA 13 or 72. It's not going to be in the same number as the 2013 version that I'm referencing here, but it will be close. Now, I will tell you, one big problem is the chapters got turned around, okay? So I think it was when it transitioned, I think between 2016 and 2019, the table of contents went haywire in the NFPA 13, as an example. I can't remember on 72 how different it is. So what I'm getting at is there's different chapters. Like chapter 11 used to be control mode density, let's say for your sprinkler systems, and now it's in like the 20s. I can't remember off the top of my head where it was. I always have to look at the table of contents. Just put the table of contents up and you can map to the new directory because the directories, the numbers changed. That'll help you out. So with that, I'll tell you what, I'm not like I said, just go to the fire inspector series of videos I did for those. But let's just jump in. Let me show you really quick my highlights from NFPA 13 and NFPA 72. You can map them over to the current versions that you're going to test on. It's a little bit more time consuming, but the reality is this is going to help you out a lot. Trust me, it's a good study source. I'm basically giving you the answers. I'm giving you the questions. I'm giving you the references. These are the questions I saw on the test. These are also the questions that other people saw on the test. So I'm giving those to you. I talk to a lot of people, do a lot of training. That's why I set this up. So in my company, I'm the AHJ for a major government research site. Does nuclear energy type stuff. So let's go through 13 and 72 really quick, and that'll help you out and speed you up a little bit. Okay, let's start off here. Some people have asked me why I have little tabs before and after I take a test. So the stuff I know, I'll tab, and the stuff I find during the test after the fact, I'll tab just to make it easier. And then what I've done in the past, not for all the tests I've taken, but a subset, I'll go through if I have time. Sometimes it's just daunting. But I'll go through on that weekend, like let's say I take it on a Friday night or Saturday morning, whatever. I'll go through all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and I'll write down all the questions from the test, and I'll add it to my list. So that's where these come from. Sometimes I just haven't had time to do it. In the case of the commercial building inspector and commercial building inspector and residential building inspector, it just was so daunting. I didn't have time. I was too busy. So I'm only giving you what I have, but look, it's better than nothing. So some of these highlights are actually separate, but the ones in yellow are from the test, okay? So let's use an example. Let's go 10. In the discussion earlier, I talked about NFPA 72, section 10.12.2 and 3. So right here. So the question was, a coded alarm signal shall consist of not less than, well, what is it? 3. The answer was 3 complete rounds of the number transmitted, where each coded alarm signal shall consist of not less than 3 impulses. Obviously not an emergency voice alarm system. So this would be a coded alarm system. And they do still exist, gongs, things like that. But that's how I set up these questions. So let's just go through. There's not a lot. There was only like, 14 in NFPA 13. So let me show you what the actual questions were. There weren't a lot. And forgive me because I did highlight, like I said, in other sections. So local system would be beneficial to know. Basically, the yellow is going to be the kind of stuff you need to look at. The orange is just other stuff I did. I used this manual for other stuff. So let me just jump through here. So there's another one. What do we got? 144432. The question was, smoke detectors in an R1 occupancy shall be inspected at what frequency after its first annual inspection? And the answer is every other year. So that was the question right from the test. Let's see. So next one, I'm not going to read every one, but it's 177321. Let's use these tabs up here. 177321. So 177321. There you go. 177321. So right here, and then the next one was 3231 here. So highlight these two. Spot type, smoke detectors, how far from the ceiling to the top of the detector is 12 inches. In the absence of specific performance-based criteria, one of the following requirements shall apply. Just read through that. Next one was 177561. 17. So right here, there it is. If the depth of the wall section above the door is 24 inches or less, one ceiling mounted, blah, blah, blah. Just read that. The question, I'm not going to read all these questions from this test, but the question that I wrote down in this online quiz is, a 17-inch deep wall section is above a door where the door separates 2 rooms. Where shall a smoke detector be placed? And based upon this, one ceiling mounted smoke detector shall be required on one side of the doorway only. That's based on that allowance. So let me just go through, show you the 14 references. I think I got them all properly tabbed. So you got another one here. So 5 decibels, 15 decibels, and 110 decibels. That'll be more, so I'm in 72 now, but these are the ones you need to, these will come up. 15 decibels above the average, 5 decibels above the maximum sound level, and then you can never exceed 110 decibels. I'm sure that was asked here. They always ask that. Let's see. 10 versus 5. There's 75 dBA. Okay, sleeping area requirements is 75 dBA. Look there. 100 candela. Look here. So there's a few references all on the same page. But I don't have it marked, but just keep in mind the maximum sound level for a fire alarm system notification appliance is 110 decibels, but I don't. It's not highlighted. Just keep that in mind. It does come up in other places occasionally, and it might come up in this test. It's a frequently asked question. Okay, so these are references. I put a big round circle of high importance. The other ones are important, but the ones with the round penciled circuit are the ones that are extra important. In a corridor, visible appliances shall be rated in less than 15 candela. Visible notification appliances shall be located not more than 15 feet from the end of a corridor with a separation not greater than 100 feet between appliances. So these are visible. You need to put in visible as well as audible notification appliances. So that's what I'm going through here. This is not, I can't remember if 17 is initiating devices, 18 is notification appliances, and I think they're still the same chapters in the current versions in 2022. I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure those chapters are the same. So this should be easier to map for you. Okay, let's see. This was another one. For rooms with a linear dimension greater than 16 feet, the visible notification appliances shall be located within 16 feet of the pillow. So our occupancy, performance space, sleeping areas. There it is. All right, let's see. What else do you have? Lobby. All the stuff I've highlighted would be beneficial, but just specific emphasis on anywhere I have a pencil mark. If the positive alarm sequence operation is initiated in accordance with such and such section, trained personnel shall have an alarm investigation phase of about 180 seconds to evaluate the fire condition and reset the system. So basically a positive alarm sequence is basically a runner service type thing. You have some time to go out and look and make sure it's an alarm before you send a signal to the fire department. Let's see, I think I have one more here. I think these chapters, I didn't have anything. All right, last question for this was slope ceilings. Smoke alarms or smoke detectors mounted on a slope ceiling shall have a rise greater than 1 foot in 8. Horizontally shall be located within 36 inches of the high side of the ceiling, but no closer than 4 inches from the adjoining wall. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's NFPA 72. Let's take a look right now at NFPA 13. See if we can slam this out really quick for you. So I'm going to go in this quiz. Let me just show you. Let me jump over to NFPA 13. There's 20 questions from NFPA 13 in those series of quizzes. So quiz number 3 in the quizzes I showed you earlier, that's going to just be from NFPA 13, 2013 edition, and it's going to have 20 references. Well, more than 20 references, but they all point to 20 questions. That's really all you're going to see. So ordinary OH1, ordinary hazard group 1 is known as OH1 in industry. So just look that one. Come over here, commodities. What was it? Oh, group A plastic. So as far as commodity classification, there's like class 1 through 4, and then there's group A, group B, group C, but group C is really just falls into another commodity. But they're going to give, the question was like, well, what group of, what commodity classification is polybutadiene? And then you just go here, you need to know where the commodity section is, go look up polybutadiene plastic, it's a group A plastic. Instead of like down here, group A's would be chloroprene rubber, group C would be phenolic, or PVC is a classic example. PVC is like on par with like a class 3 commodity. It doesn't burn very good. Okay, next one. Let's see. We are at 613. I'm going to read the question to you from the quiz just for the heck of it. Let's go ahead and read the question so we can see what it says. Let's see, 613. Bear with me, folks. What's the minimum pressure that sprinkler system components shall be rated to? So, okay, a lot of times, this will throw you, folks. When you're designing a system's designed on a head at 7 psi. That's not the way they've worded this is tricky. They will throw you. Technically, you have to design the sprinkler head at the manufacturer so it can handle 175 psi. But the minimum flow that a head can have is 7 psi. You're gonna be tempted to put 7 psi. They're gonna try to trick you. The answer is 175 psi. That's what the maximum it's designed to. So it's important to know that. Temperature rating, classification, and color codings. So just know that an intermediate's 150 degrees. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have some heads you're placing next to a roof, a sun, like what can I think? A window in the roof, or like next to a heater, that kind of thing. You need to go with ratings that have a higher temperature classification than like low. Normally I run 165 degree heads in just about everything I do for typical applications. But if I'm next to like a skylight, I'll want to go high. I want to go to 225. So the question, how they answered this, or the question that I saw in the test was, a sprinkler head rated as a high temperature classification is rated for what ceiling temperature? The answer is 225 degrees Fahrenheit. Bam, you're done. Simple as that. Let's see. Next question was 6291. A supply of at least 6 spare sprinklers shall be maintained on the premises. So here's what it says. What is the minimum number of spare sprinkler heads required to be stocked for a building with 240 heads and 7 different types? Okay? This is going to nail you, folks. Okay? Because it says right here 6 spare sprinklers. But in the question that ICC gave you, they said there was a total of 240 heads in the system with 7 different types of sprinkler heads. And that's, I mean, what the heck do you do? Now look at the circle here. This is important. Look at the circle. What that circle tells you is go to the annex, and Annex A specifically, okay? Annex A is what NFPA refers to appendices. It's instead of calling it an appendix, they call it an annex for some reason. But let's go to 6291. A minimum of 2 sprinklers of each type and temperature rating should be provided. Okay, so go to the annex when you're trying to answer complex problems. If it didn't have an annex reference and it just said at least 6 spare sprinklers, that'd be the answer. But go to the annex and find out more. So the answer is actually 14. You have 7 different types, 240 total heads on your system. 7 different types, but take a look. It's 2 per type. So instead of 6, it's 14. That's what you need. That will get you, folks, big time. Let's see. Let's jump through here. Next one is, shucks. Next one is 7232. So 73. There's two questions, references on this page. 2 questions. So the question was, does a dry pipe system always require water delivery within 60 seconds? And if you look here, system size should be such that water is discharged from the system test connector not more than 60 seconds. But there's allowances. So let's see. If you have there's difference. I don't want to get too technical. There's a standard response and a quick response, quick opening device. A QR or it's QS versus standard response, SR, QR's quick response or quick opening device. It allows, as long as you have a QR, you don't have to meet the 60 second. Okay, so even though it says 60 seconds, ICC is trying to trick you because there's allowances that you don't have to meet the 60 seconds with. So just keep that in mind. Next one was down here, 236. But it's a series, let's see, 2363, 2363. 72363 is dry pipe systems and dwelling units require water delivery within how long of the most remote sprinkler? It's 15 seconds right there. Okay. All right, let's keep on going. Chapter 8, the question, the question for this reference is 8.1.1 is which of the following does not apply to sprinkler head installation? And you'll see it here. Sprinkler heads can be omitted from undesirable locations. That's tricky. I want to be very clear, folks, because this is a real issue. If you look at 903.3.1.1 of the 2018 IBC and IFC, it counters this. It says that you can omit them from undesirable locations. It's very, in fact, maybe it's worth showing you this. This is funky. This will mess you up. And I think, let me see, hold on a sec. Let me see if I can actually show this to you, because what I'm getting at is you might run into a problem here, and I want you to be prepared for that. Let's look at 903.3. 903.3. Let's just open this up. Okay, there you go. 903.1.1.1. Okay. So look at, you tell me. Look what it says. A room or space where sprinklers are considered undesirable because of the nature of the contents were approved by the fire code official. Now look at the question from NFPA 13. This is going to throw you. This is nuts. The question was, which of the following does not apply to sprinkler head installation? Sprinkler heads can be omitted from undesirable locations. So which section was that? Throughout the premises, sprinklers shall be, there. Sprinklers shall be permitted to be omitted from areas specifically allowed by the standard. Sprinklers shall be positioned and located so as to provide satisfactory performance with respect to activation time and distribution. Sprinklers shall be located so as not to exceed the maximum protection area per sprinkler. Sprinklers shall be installed throughout the premises. So if you read that and then you read item 4 specifically, you could easily get duped, because if you go back to that section I showed you in the IFC and you specifically look at the commentary, I'm not going to take the time to look up it. They're very strict, saying you can't just willy-nilly omit stuff from what defines undesirable. So it becomes very murky in terms of how to interpret this. So just keep in mind, you can get rid of sprinklers from undesirable locations. Let's say you're working with zirconium, which is zirconium powder, or magnesium powder, which potentially, or sodium as an example, which could ignite with water. Zirconium, if you have a specific moisture content and specific, it could be pyrophoric, but when you add water to it, it explodes. Zirconium does, as an example. So you have to have a lot of latitude in terms of omitting sprinkler heads from certain areas. So let me just keep on trucking here. I don't want to belabor this. Let's see. Table 8325. Okay, so the question was on this, what temperature rating shall a sprinkler head 2 feet above a heating duct be rating for? So if you're putting a suppression system in, have a suppression head above a heating duct, it gives you some specs in terms of what you need to abide by. Let's see, I'm just going to slam through this. I don't want to belabor this and waste your time. The maximum distance should be measured along the slope of the ceiling for distance between sprinklers. Clearance from deflectors to storage. Okay, so deflectors is 18 inches. I want you to understand something though. Don't set this number in stone. What this is asking here, what is the distance between stored items and the sprinkler head deflector? It says 18 inches. You're going to be good for 95% of the time with that. But if you go to a storage occupancy, that jumps up to 24 inches. There's some applications that are even more than that. So, but for almost all ordinary hazard and light hazard applications, it's always 18 inches. Just don't get locked into this number. Know where it is and know that there's some very unusual situations that may allow you to have more than 18 inches away from storage. Okay, let's see. What is the maximum spacing for sprinkler heads at a 20-foot wide extra hazard road, extra hazard room, so EH. So you have light hazard, ordinary hazard, extra hazard, and then there's some storage occupancy. So an EH, when you hear EH, it's extra hazard. So 86221C was what was used here. So if you come here and look at the footnote, up to 25 feet wide, sprinklers is permitted up to be 12.5 feet. Okay, between sprinklers. So the answer in this question was 12.5 feet between maximum spacing for sprinkler heads in a 25-foot wide extra hazard room. All right, let's see. Let's zip through this. I don't want to kill you. There's a lot of good stuff here. This is, but if you're not familiar with like fire-related stuff, this is like brand new. How the heck would you pass this? It's not easy stuff. So this question here, 87221, what is the maximum spacing along a wall in an ordinary hazard design that sidewall sprinklers can be spaced? 10 feet. Sidewalls are the ones that come through a wall instead of like through a ceiling. They're in a wall and they spray out. Let's just blast through this. I don't want to belabor this and waste your time. Okay, what was the next one? What is an let's see, 816.1121. What is an acceptable form of supervision of water supply valves? Valves locked in the correct position was the answer. See, next question was temperature. Let's see, where any portion of a system is subject to freezing and the temperature cannot be reliably maintained at or above 40 degrees, the system shall be installed as a dry pipe. In other words, there's no water until you have a fire. 40 degrees is the magic number. Now, I want to keep in mind, if you have a registered professional engineer, they can drop below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. You're allowed to go to the annex, read some more stuff on it. But what ICC is going to expect, you need to answer 40 degrees. That's the answer. Okay, let's see. I have two more, just three more here. Let's just look at them really quick. Let's see. A building plans examiner identifies a specification for an 8-inch hole to be cut in a W24 by 162 beam to support a 6-inch sprinkler supply line. What should be done? So how much of a hole do you actually need? And what it is, if you look at 9342, holes shall be sized such that the diameter of the holes is nominally 2 inches larger than the pipe for pipe 1 inch nominal to 3.5 inches nominal, and 4 inches larger than the pipe for a pipe 4 inches nominal and larger. So if you have a 6-inch sprinkler pipe going through this, you need to have a 10-inch pipe. So it's 6 plus 4 is how that works. That's how you'd figure that out. Okay, so next question that was asked that I saw in this test was, let's see, what of the following, 16, let's see, what of the following is required for in-rack sprinkler designs? And they give some stuff. I don't remember what it was. But the number of sprinklers and the pipe size and the line of sprinklers in the rack shall be restricted only by hydraulic calculations and not by any piping schedule. And just explain, piping schedule as a specific definition. It is, it's where you have like 2 heads on a 1-inch pipe, or more heads on 1 1/4, 1 1/2, etc. It's based on the delivery pipe size. And that's how they used to do it. You can't actually do a pipe schedule anymore. It has to be hydraulically calculated. And everything's hydraulically calculated anymore, so it's kind of a dumb question. Let's see. This was a hard question. A warehouse is being designed for 20-foot rack storage of Class 4 non-encapsulated commodities without in-rack suppression. What suppression is required at the ceiling? And this control. Okay, so what this is a density curve. Okay, and it's based on storage. Non-encapsulated means it's not wrapped in like visqueen or plastic, shrink wrap, that kind of thing. And what you're looking at here is it says 20 feet. The question was 20 feet high rack storage. That's another thing. Rack storage. It's not solid piled. It's rack storage. Then the suppression required it ended up being 0.6 of the selection available. It was 0.6 GPM per square foot at 3,000 square foot design flow, with high temp heads. Or it gives you some other options. You can go 0.58 GPM at per square foot at 2,000 square feet with ordinary temp heads. The high heat heads, they delay activation. That's the principle. It takes longer to activate, which means a fire can get bigger. But if you're worried about a heater or sunlight activating your heads, you have to go with a high temp, which means you have to provide a bigger design area and more flow to control the fire that was permitted to grow bigger because of the delay. So that's the principle behind it. All right, that was it. That's the last question. I had one here, but it's not in the test. I don't know. I can't. Let's just look at that. I'm not going to take the time to read it. It's not on the quiz. So here's design density versus storage. I don't think they're going to ask anything that complex. Another question, a minimum of 2 sprinklers of each type. And yeah, I already showed you the annex one there. That's it, folks. Just look through all these questions I have on these online quizzes. They'll help you get through. I mean, they're good questions. They actually came from tests. The references are going to be spot on. You may see a 10% difference between the 2015 edition and 2021 edition of your ICC standards or codes. But the reality is you need a 75% to pass. So if you go through this, I think you'll be doing good. Good luck to you. I hope you can pass this. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if I can do anything for you or if you find this useful. You have a good one. Catch you later.